Console players got their share of classics, sure, but there's an entire universe of PC RPGs that never made the jump. Games built for mouse and keyboard, designed around freedom and complexity that controllers couldn't quite capture. They weren't worried about reaching every platform. So, console players never got to experience these PC-exclusive RPGs. Drakensang, The River of Time, is based on the German RPG system The Dark Eye. Set in a fantasy world inspired by medieval Europe rather than Tolkien, it offers a refreshing alternative to generic settings. The game follows adventurers navigating political intrigue, ancient ruins, and supernatural threats along the Great River. The Dark Eye rule set translates well to real-time with pause combat, emphasizing tactical positioning and resource management. Fights demand preparation, scouting enemies, choosing the right spells, and coordinating your party. Each character class feels distinct, with unique abilities complementing different playstyles. Spellcasting is particularly satisfying, with a wide variety of spells having situational uses beyond simple damage. What I enjoy about Drakensang is its emphasis on non-combat skills. Persuasion, intimidation, and knowledge checks frequently open alternative quest solutions. Characters with high herbalism craft potent potions. Those with streetwise navigate social encounters effectively. The game respects builds that don't focus purely on combat. Visually, the game impresses with detailed environments, bustling cities, murky swamps, eerie forests. NPC schedules and ambient dialogue create a living world. The soundtrack is understated but atmospheric, enhancing exploration without overwhelming it. The weaknesses are hard to overlook. The story, while competent, never quite grips you. Companion characters are functional but lack depth and banter. Quests can feel repetitive. Fetch this, kill that, return, without enough variety to sustain interest across the 40-hour runtime. Combat can become tedious during long dungeons. Drakensang is solid but ultimately forgettable. Lands of Lore 2 represents one of the last ambitious first-person RPGs. It follows Luther, son of the villain from the first game, who's been cursed with uncontrollable shape-shifting. The premise of playing a character struggling with a condition others fear adds emotional weight uncommon in mid-90s RPGs. The shape-shifting mechanic is the game's defining feature. Luther transforms into a lizard for stealth and tight spaces, a beast for combat power, and remains human for spell casting and interaction. Each form has strengths and weaknesses, and puzzles often require switching between them creatively. The transformation fundamentally changes how you approach encounters and exploration. Westwood invested heavily in production values. Full-motion video cutscenes feature recognizable actors, and while the live-action segments haven't aged gracefully, they show ambition. The voice acting is generally strong, with Luther's internal monologue reflecting his struggle with identity. The game tries to tell a personal story within a larger conflict, unusual for the genre. Exploration mixes first-person dungeon crawling with more open outdoor environments. The engine allows vertical movement, climbing, jumping, swimming. That adds dimension to level design. Puzzles require observation and experimentation, though some rely on pixel hunting and obscure item combinations that frustrate. But the execution sometimes comes short. The control scheme is awkward, even for 1997, with clunky movement and unresponsive combat. Bugs plague the release, including game-breaking issues that could corrupt saves. Performance was demanding for the era. Lands of Lore 2 had ambition, but technical problems kept it from greatness. Released in 1999, Silver is one of the strangest PC RPGs that time forgot. Developed by Spiral House, it blends Japanese RPG storytelling with Western action combat, ending up exclusive to PC and Dreamcast. The game follows David, whose wife is kidnapped by Emperor Simeon, forcing him to gather warriors and learn swordplay to get her back. What makes Silver unique is its real-time combat system, unusual for RPGs at the time. Fights play out with direct control. You time sword swings, dodge attacks, manage stamina like an action game rather than traditional RPG battles. Companions fight alongside you with basic commands, but the focus is skillful play over menu management. The visual style leans into anime influences with cel-shaded graphics and dramatic character designs that stood out in 1999. Cutscenes use hand-drawn illustrations, giving the game a storybook quality despite dated 3D models. The score is surprisingly memorable, mixing orchestral themes with quieter pieces fitting the tone. Progression involves collecting orbs, magical artifacts granting new abilities. These aren't stat boosts. They unlock combat moves, healing spells, and traversal skills opening previously inaccessible areas. The semi-open world encourages backtracking once you've gained new powers, rewarding thorough exploration. The problems are glaring. The game is short, around 15 hours, feeling thin for an RPG. Difficulty spikes inconsistently, with some bosses trivially easy while random encounters become frustrating slogs. The English voice acting is wooden, and dialogue often feels awkwardly translated. Silver never found its audience, sandwiched between bigger RPGs and released at an awkward time for PC gaming. Flawed and forgotten, but worth a look for experimental combat fans. Larian Studios' 2002 debut is criminally overlooked. Divine Divinity looks like a Diablo clone at first. Isometric perspective, hack-and-slash combat, random loot. Underneath that familiar surface is something closer to Ultima or Baldur's Gate, with branching dialogue, non-combat skills, and a world reacting to your reputation. What pulls me in is the freedom. You start by picking warrior, wizard, or survivor, but that's just the beginning. The game has 96 skills spread across all archetypes, and you're free to mix them. Want a sword-swinging mage who picks locks? Go for it. A sneaky warrior summoning skeletons? The game lets you experiment without punishment. The world of Rivelin feels lived in, with NPCs who have schedules and personalities. You can invest in lockpicking for hidden treasures, charm your way through conflicts, or solve everything with fireballs. Side quests are plentiful and often surprisingly involved, pulling you into stories beyond saving the world. Combat sits between action and tactics. Real-time with pause options, it's faster than Baldur's Gate, but more thoughtful than Diablo. Enemy variety keeps things interesting, and spell combinations allow creative carnage when you figure out which effects stack. The problems are hard to ignore. The game was rushed to release. Bugs were rampant at launch. Pathfinding can frustrate, and some quests break if approached in the wrong order. The story leans heavily on chosen one tropes without the twist to make them compelling. Despite flaws, Divine Divinity offers over 100 hours of exploration. It's the foundation Larian built their reputation on, deserving recognition beyond that game before Original Sin. Grimoire is less a game and more a monument to obsession. Developed almost entirely by one person, Cleve Blakemore. Over 2 decades, it finally released in 2017 after becoming legendary vaporware. Inspired by wizardry and might and magic, it's an utterly massive, deliberately old-school RPG that refuses to compromise with modern design. Character creation alone can take hours. You roll stats, choose from 15 races and 20-plus classes, allocate skill points, and select backgrounds, all before the game begins. Party composition matters deeply, as certain combinations unlock secrets others will never see. The lack of respec options means poor planning can doom your entire playthrough. The game world is enormous, with hundreds of quests, NPCs, and dungeon floors to explore. Grimoire doesn't guide you. There are no quest markers, no tutorials, no difficulty scaling. You navigate by reading dialogue, mapping dungeons manually, and learning through trial and error. Puzzles require logic and note-taking. Combat demands careful resource management and tactical thinking. Grimoire is special and infuriating because of its sheer density. Hidden switches, cryptic riddles, branching paths, and secrets layered on secrets reward those willing to engage deeply. The writing shows genuine care for world building. Discovering how systems interconnect feels like archaeology. But the interface is clunky and obtuse, clearly designed for a 1990s audience. Bugs were rampant at launch and persist despite patches. Combat can feel slow and repetitive during long dungeon crawls. Difficulty spikes unpredictably, and critical information is often hidden or poorly communicated. Menus are cluttered, systems bloated, inventory tedious. Gorky 17 is an oddity, a Polish survival horror RPG from 1999 that blends tactical combat with X-Files style conspiracy and body horror straight out of H.R. Geiger's nightmares. Developed by Metropolis Software and released as Odium in North America. It follows a NATO Special Forces team investigating a quarantined Polish city where biological experiments went catastrophically wrong. The setup feels ripped from a Cold War thriller. Your team arrives expecting answers and instead discovers mutated soldiers, grotesque bioweapons, and abandoned labs filled with cryptic research notes. The tone is oppressively dark, with grimy industrial environments and disturbing creature designs that wouldn't feel out of place in a horror film. This isn't heroic fantasy, it's survival against the odds. Combat is turn-based and tactical, playing out on small grid-based maps. Positioning matters, ammunition is limited, and healing items are scarce enough to force careful planning. Each team member has distinct abilities, and losing one permanently can cripple your squad. Encounters feel tense because resources are genuinely precious. Exploration happens in real time, with your team navigating the ruined city of Gorky, solving environmental puzzles, and uncovering documents piecing together what went wrong. The story is surprisingly involved, with conspiracies layered on conspiracies and an ending that doesn't provide clean answers. The problems are numerous. Difficulty is punishing, with little room for error in combat. Inventory management is clunky, and the interface shows its age badly. Voice acting is minimal and stilted, and bugs can crash the game unexpectedly. Despite flaws, it's a cult classic for players who appreciate bleak, uncompromising RPGs. Albion is a fascinating artifact from 1995, developed by Blue Byte and representing an era when PC RPGs were still figuring out their identity. It blends first-person dungeon crawling with isometric exploration, switching perspectives depending on location. Set on a distant planet that appears primitive but hides advanced technology, the game follows space pilot Tom Driscoll as he crash lands and discovers a world far more complex than scans suggested. The world building in Albion special. The planet houses multiple cultures, Celtic-inspired tribes, industrial cities, ancient ruins, all with their own belief systems and conflicts. The narrative explores colonialism and environmental destruction without heavy-handed moralizing. Conversations reveal layered perspectives, and the game doesn't always tell you who's right. Combat uses turn-based positioning with magic schools, allowing creative combinations. Character progression is class-based, but flexible, letting you train skills outside your archetype. Exploration rewards thoroughness, with secrets hidden in dungeons and cities. The day-night cycle affects NPC availability and quest triggers, adding immersion. Puzzle design is intricate, sometimes frustrating. Environmental riddles, ancient texts, and magical locks require note-taking and patience. The game assumes you're paying attention to lore and doesn't offer hints beyond cryptic clues and dialogue. Dungeons feel overly long, with excessive random encounters. The shift between first-person and isometric perspectives, while ambitious, can be jarring and makes navigation inconsistent. Loading times between areas disrupt immersion. Albion never achieved mainstream success, but offers thoughtful sci-fi RPG for those willing to engage. Septerra Core tried to merge Japanese RPG design with Western PC sensibilities and created something genuinely unique. Released in 1999 by Valkyrie Studios, it presents a world built on 7 layered shells orbiting a mysterious core. The hand-painted art and pre-rendered characters create a unique visual identity. The story centers on Maya, a junker from the lower shells who gets swept into conflict involving ancient technology and prophesied destiny. It leans into JRPG tropes, amnesiacs, world-ending threats, mysterious artifacts, but the steampunk meets mysticism setting keeps it from feeling derivative. The shell system creates distinct cultures as you descend, from sky cities to junkyards to forgotten ruins. Combat uses an active time battle system clearly inspired by Final Fantasy, where characters and enemies take turns based on charging meters. What makes it interesting is the combo system. Characters can spend accumulated turns to unleash powerful team attacks, encouraging strategic timing rather than mashing through encounters. Boss fights demand pattern recognition and resource management. Exploration involves navigating interconnected maps, solving environmental puzzles, and talking to NPCs who provide lore and side quests. The world feels expansive, with optional content rewarding thorough investigation. Character customization revolves around equipping cores that grant abilities, but the game's pacing can drag a fair bit. Random encounters are frequent and slow, since every battle involves watching turn meters fill and animations play out. Backtracking is excessive, and some dungeons feel stretched beyond their welcome. Load times between areas disrupt momentum. Voice acting is sparse, and bugs can softlock progress. Shadows over Riva represents hardcore PC RPG design at its most uncompromising. Based on the German tabletop system Das Schwarze Auge, it simulates pen and paper mechanics with brutal fidelity, including hunger, disease, and characters dying from infected wounds or bad weather. I respect how seriously this takes simulation. Your party needs to eat, sleep, and manage equipment weight. Travel involves navigating wilderness where exposure can kill you faster than monsters. Entering a dungeon without proper supplies, rope, torches, antidotes, is suicide. Combat follows strict tabletop rules, with dice rolls determining outcomes and critical failures meaning your sword breaks mid-fight. The game is set in Riva and surrounding regions, with quests ranging from political intrigue to dungeon crawls. The story involves investigating a conspiracy threatening the city, but the real appeal is the journey, managing your party, making strategic decisions, and surviving the world's indifference. Character creation is exhaustive. You generate stats through dice rolls, choose professions, allocate skill points, and decide backgrounds affecting starting equipment and reputation. The depth is staggering but intimidating. One wrong choice during creation can cripple your party for the entire campaign. The problems are significant. The interface is archaic, with menus nested inside menus and commands requiring memorized keyboard shortcuts. Combat is slow, with animations and dice roll results taking time to process. The difficulty curve is brutal. Early game is punishing, and without meta-knowledge, you'll restart multiple times. This game is not for everyone. Dense, unforgiving, manual required. Imagine a world where Industrial Revolution crashes headfirst in a high fantasy, where dwarves carry rifles and elves distrust steam engines on principle. Released in 2001 by Troika Games, Arcanum takes the Fallout formula and transplants it into a Victorian steampunk setting where magic and technology are literally incompatible forces that repel each other. I love how committed this world is to the concept. Play as a tech-focused gunslinger, and mages refuse you passage on their trains. Specialize in magic, and mechanical devices explode in your hands. Society fractures along these lines. Gnomes face prejudice for embracing industry. Elves cling to tradition. Half-ogres get treated like disposable labor. The reactivity runs deep, with dialogue changing based on intelligence. Play a genius and unlock philosophical debates. Play an idiot and you're grunting monosyllables. The freedom is staggering. Quests have multiple solutions: combat, stealth, diplomacy, trickery. You can build a smooth-talking technologist who never fires a shot, or a battle mage solving problems with lightning. The classless system lets you mix skills freely, creating bizarre hybrids that somehow work. Where Arcanum stumbles is execution. Combat feels unbalanced and clunky, especially in real-time mode. Bugs plague the launch, and even with fan patches, rough edges remain. The interface hasn't aged well, and dungeons drag with repetitive encounters testing patience more than tactics. For PC RPG fans hungry for true choice and a setting that dares to be different, Arcanum remains a cult classic. Messy, ambitious, and unapologetically complex. Everything a PC-exclusive RPG should be.
There's always a better path, and that it's always...
Piranha Bytes created something special with Gothic 2 in 2002, an RPG that felt hostile from the first minute. Set on the island of Korinis, wandering off the path gets you killed by wolves, bandits ambush you in daylight, and townsfolk treat you like dirt until you earn respect. Console RPGs were smoothing edges by then, but Gothic 2 doubled down on friction. I appreciate how this world operates on its own terms. NPCs follow daily routines. Guards patrol, merchants open shops, thieves work at night. Kill someone important and quests close permanently. Join a faction and others become hostile. The game doesn't hold your hand or mark objectives. You learn by exploring, failing, and remembering conversations. Character progression is brutal but rewarding. You start pathetically weak, barely able to swing a sword. Combat requires timing and patience. You can't spam attacks. As you train with masters scattered across the world, improvement feels earned. Finding a skilled teacher and scraping together gold becomes its own quest line. The world design is dense and vertical. It's compact but layered, with secrets in caves, ruins, and rooftops. Exploration consistently rewards curiosity, a powerful weapon in a forgotten cellar or a shortcut, saving hours of backtracking. But it definitely stumbles in accessibility. The control scheme is clunky, with awkward keyboard-only inputs taking hours to master. The difficulty curve is punishing, and the English localization is rough, with stiff voice acting and odd translations breaking immersion. For players craving a challenging RPG that respects intelligence over convenience, Gothic 2 remains unmatched.
I knew he was powerful, but creating a tower just like that...
When BioWare released Neverwinter Nights in 2002, they weren't just making an RPG, they were building a platform. This was their attempt to capture pen-and-paper dungeons and dragons on PC, complete with tools letting anyone become a dungeon master. The included Aurora toolset turned players into creators, spawning thousands of custom adventures that kept the game alive for years. The main campaign follows a plague, devastating Neverwinter. Honestly, it's BioWare's most straightforward story, hunting for a cure while uncovering a cult conspiracy. The plot feels familiar if you've played other D&D games. What made this special was everything surrounding it. The real genius was the multiplayer framework. Unlike other RPGs where you control the full party, this focused on a single character plus one henchman. This streamlined approach made it perfect for online play, where a dungeon master could guide players through custom campaigns in real time, improvising like a real tabletop session. Persistent worlds emerged, servers running 24/7 with evolving stories. Some are still active today. The 3rd edition D&D rule set translation was faithful, giving deep character customization with multi-classing, feats, and skills that mattered in and out of combat. The day-night cycle added immersion many RPGs skipped. Where it falls short is scope. Coming after the massive Baldur's Gate 2, the The smaller areas and linear structure felt constrained. Campaign companions lacked depth, functional but forgettable compared to later standards. Graphically, even for 2002, it looked dated. The expansions improved significantly, but the base game's legacy is the tool set and community it created. Neverwinter Nights proved PC RPGs could be platforms, not just products.